It's possible to renegotiate that, but we really, really don't want to, and neither do they. So things would have to go really sideways for that.
So really, it's coming out this year. Is basically the short of it, right?
Yep. Now, when exactly, you'll find out, and so will we.
Yep.
Butterscotch
Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 448 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the game dev comedy podcast of Butterscotch Shenanigans. I'm Seth, and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam, and I'm the miscellaneous programmer.
I'm Sam, and I'm the artiste.
This is a show where we talk about life, business, and working in the games industry. Today is December 19th, 20 Jubilee. And before we go any further, profanity warning. We're going to be cursing just constantly throughout this episode because this is the year in review episode, as well as talking about what's coming next year. And, you know, there's going to be some curse words slipping in there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident. Not because it was a bad year, just because that's how we talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be any different than any other episode.
Yeah.
But, you know, that. Also, big thank you to Intuition for the big fat donation via moneygrab.bscotch.net, which is open for people to donate money, help support the podcast. And Intuition, who's one of our big Levelhead players, dropped us a real nice donation and a note. And Intuition said, "For the last 4.5 years of enjoyment you've given me, thank you. And Merry Christmas."
Oh, thanks.
Thanks, buddy.
It's very sweet. Very sweet.
Also,
holiday
Intuition,
spirit
I think,
occupied.
is still putting out like a video per day for Levelhead.
Intuition is a machine.
Levelhead games.
I've never seen anything like it. Yeah, it's always incredible to watch them burn through Levelhead levels like it's nothing. A lot of speed running and stuff like that. So very cool. All right, so let's get into our year in review.
Let's go.
Okay, so 2023 was 20 Jubilee, the year of forgiveness, the year of let go of the past, move forward,
Clear those debts.
and clear your debts, emotional debts, financial debts, whatever. Just
Technical debts, as is often
let
the
it
case.
go. It's the year of fuck the sunk cost fallacy. I'm out of here. You know.
And
So
there was
overall-
a little bit of like legit debt forgiveness through the student loan stuff, but not nearly as much as there should have been.
Yeah, and ideally, you wouldn't have to do that because
Yeah,
you wouldn't need
ideally.
to take out a loan in the first place. But that's a separate conversation. 20
Now that we have that,
2023 was more like, now that we have all this debt, can we not?
and
Can
the
we
answer
not have
was, yeah, mostly no. We still have to, but here's a little bit less. So we made some. I think that was mostly us though that caused it to happen. So through the theme of the
sure.
year.
Yeah.
I'm sure Biden
welcome.
is an
Name it,
avid
we called it.
podcast listener. So.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I do think that, at least for myself, there was a lot of stuff in working on Crashlands 2 in the code base and whatever. I deleted a lot of old legacy code this year.
That's true.
Probably too much, honestly. There's not much left. So
Make it good. The fewer DS maps that we have to deal with. Is that the one?
the better. Yeah. There is one last
I'm using
thing.
words I don't understand.
There's one last thing that's kind of like hanging in there, but man, we really did a purge this year of getting rid of old crap. So feeling good about that. So let's talk about all the different things that happened this year. We got a bunch of numbers, stats, events.
Just a fun little lenses to look at the studio through.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So let's talk about Crashlands 2. So first off, it was a big year because we signed a deal with Netflix for getting the game onto mobile, which is going to be a huge deal. The mobile market is a tricky one. Premium games are a little different than they used to be. The way featuring works is different. And,
Everything's different.
Everything's different than it was back when we launched the first game.
Different and harder.
Because I remember, like when we launched the first Crashlands, that was at a time where if you got editor's choice on the gaming portion of the App Store, you were on the front page of the whole ass App Store for a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had
Like,
we had that on iPad because they also have a separate store for iPad. But yeah, we had Crashlands went at launch. Like the reason it was successful on iOS was because of that big feature treatment.
because
for that whole
people
week.
saw it,
Yep.
And you can have a really good game, but if you don't have somebody in your corner showing the game to people so that they can get it and play it, then you may as well not have a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, a big thing for this year was like us trying to answer that question: who's going to be in our corner? Who's going to help us get the game the exposure that it needs and get it into the hands of people? Now that the App Store functions so differently, knowing that would just be a really difficult thing for us to try to do by ourselves, right? And so we're super pumped about that. We think that this is going to get the game to the hands of a lot of people, and we're very pumped.
Also,
and
they
they've
did
been
get
a
like
great,
Grand
they've been a
Theft
great business
Auto.
partner.
Like they got Grand Theft Auto in there. Like,
One of the older ones, right?
Yeah. Well, the ones that are on mobile,
which is crazy. Yeah. So
Yeah, the Netflix gaming stuff is really starting to pop off. Like at the a lot earlier, it was a lot of much simpler mobile titles and solitaire and things that are a little bit more casual. But yeah, they're really roping in some good stuff these days.
I saw they put out a list of like the ones that they have coming up on the docket, of like the known release dates and stuff. And there was like, I think they've already got like 80 games planned to come out this next year. And I was looking through the list, and it's like there's a bunch of bangers on there. It's gonna be for those who are already in Netflix. It's gonna be a really
it's a good value proposition. Yeah. And like I know that we've had comments where people were like, oh, I'm not a subscriber and I want to play it on mobile, and now I'm kind of bummed because I won't be able to play it or whatever. Which is understandable, but also bear in mind that like it's kind of like Xbox Game Pass, right? In the sense that like if there's only one game you want to play on Xbox Game Pass and you don't want to subscribe to Game Pass, that's kind of a bummer for you, right? But also there's a lot of games on there for that subscription, and it's a really good deal. So,
it's not a good deal for one game, although actually it is.
No, it is.
Even in that case,
the games you're playing are like $60 games, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say it usually is now.
So it actually is a good deal there, period. Yeah. Which is less true on mobile when it comes to the Netflix subscription, right? Except for the Netflix subscription, you're getting all the TV shows, movies.
Yeah, so I definitely understand the apprehension that some people expressed when we first announced this, where they're like, do I have to be a subscriber to this monthly service just to play Crashlands 2? And it's just like, well, yes, on mobile, but also not just Crashlands 2. There's like a million things now that you will be getting with that subscription, and I think it's going to be a very good thing. So I'm very excited about that. So as of right now, we also announced Crashlands 2 then in June. So we kind of signed everything with Netflix in around like March, and we started being able to sort of publicly speak about stuff in June, and we did our big announcement with the Mix event. We opened up our Steam page and we started promoting stuff, and as of now, we're coming up on something like 60,000 wish lists. Which we're feeling very good about. It's not like astronomical numbers, but it's also very good especially for this
great numbers for indies
for this point in dev. Because also the way the Steam algorithm works is as your release date approaches, they surface your game more because those wish lists are much more likely to convert if people wish list it closer to the launch date, right? Because they haven't forgotten about it or whatever.
But also you show up in other lists and stuff once you've got a known date, and there's a whole bunch of things that happen on the store that change how and when you get seen by people. So,
and so for a game that is not currently coming soon, and it's just kind of lurking in the store page as hey, like this game's going to be out at some point. 60,000 wish lists is like we're feeling very good about that, and compared to how many wish lists the original game got in the months leading up to its launch, Crashlands 2 is blowing it out of the water. Yeah. So very excited about all of that. Totally. And we just recently pushed into the top 500 wish listed games on Steam. And again, even though we are not even close to the launch date. So very cool. And as far as like how we kind of went about accruing those wish lists, a whole bunch of stuff. We did a whole bunch of stuff. So we did like a midweek madness Crashlands franchise kind of sale thing, and we also added a little banner thing to the main menu of the original Crashlands that directs people to Crashlands 2. So that way, if people are playing it, if they're enjoying it, that they at least know that a sequel is coming. And that has actually funneled quite a lot of work.
Yeah, that's been like the main thing holding the tail up of wish lists. It's been that.
Yeah. So that was a very easy, like we just patched that thing in, slapped it on the main menu, bing, bang, boom, done.
Well, it's in the reminder too of like why the franchise model is so successful, right? Like it's
people want more of good stuff.
It's so much easier. Well, and also because it's the same kind of thing. So you don't have to get over the hurdle of like, oh, like I'm just checking out something by the same developer, but it's just a different game.
Something random.
Yeah. You completely avoid that hurdle. And it's impressively effective to do that cross promo.
And so we'll be looking to do a lot more things in the coming year to sort of boost the original game because the original game is such a great funnel into the hype around the new game, right? So we'll be doing a lot of that stuff. We were part of the PC gaming show pretty recently, just like a couple of weeks ago. And that was pretty fun. It didn't have quite the impact that we were hoping for in terms of, visibility and stuff, but it still did pull some traffic.
It's one of those things. It did something. It didn't do as much as it needed to verify or like to make the cost
justify the cost. Yeah.
But it had a sizable effect that was not cost effective. As I think.
Yeah. So we're still learning about a lot of, about the pros and cons of different strategies. Cause this is honestly probably the first time that we've had a real marketing budget that we're kind of like,
we put a lot of money behind Levelhead. Because that was our first time like really throwing money at like advertising and marketing, like because we did like a store, or we did like a full takeover of a bunch of websites on Levelhead's launch. We did a huge YouTube ad campaign. We didn't do as much of the festival stuff.
Yeah, we didn't do any of the shows where like people.
And we didn't do it. And we didn't do it in that much of like an ongoing kind of a way. It was pretty concentrated around the launch. Yeah. And so with Crashlands 2, we're experimenting with different strategies of like running YouTube ads to show the trailer to people in different ways. Like if we do it in a burst, is that something? Or if we like do it like a slow drip over time, or if we have it coincide with something else, or if we get into a show, what happens, and it's very difficult to gauge the impacts of these things, but you can kind of get a general sense. And so we're learning a lot about that, which is pretty cool. And then we also just recently had a YouTuber debut of Crashlands 2 with Splattercat, who was one of the YouTubers who was I would say probably one of the first to kind of like really cover the original Crashlands. And he played the shit out of the first game and made a bunch of videos about it. And also just like his vibe was it fit well with the game. Like he was like reading the characters' dialogue with like goofy voices and, like just having a great time with the first game. So we just recently had Splattercat play an early alpha copy of Crashlands 2, and he put up a 30-minute video talking about what he liked about it, what he didn't like about it, et cetera, et cetera. Overall, very positive response from him. So pretty cool. And that drove quite a few wish lists as well. So lots of stuff this past year in terms of like getting the thing up off the ground, trying to start accumulating those wish lists, getting the game in front of people. And ultimately it's a challenge that has always been there. Like I was there with the first game, which is trying to convey what it's like to play the game, emotionally without just like listing out features, like that's always things. You tell people what's in the game, but that doesn't actually capture whether it's a good game or whether it's fun to play, so we're learning. We're learning all kinds of stuff.
I think we're doing a better job of that with this time around, where the focus is more the kind of like the aesthetic. And I mean that like the overall feel sense of the thing, which is about this like friendship as power dynamic with aliens and stuff like that. The game's it's a good goofy time, and I think the follow up to all this is that we did our alpha test back before Thanksgiving, and that went very well so far as we're concerned. All the numbers that we got out of that make it look like the game's more performant, if you want to do some kind of businessy speak on the metrics that we care about in terms of play time.
It's more engaging.
It's more engaging, in the long run, which is all good because again, like the original did well for what it was in its time, and the hope was to make something that did better, and it seems like we have. So now we just gotta finish it and get it out.
Yeah, I'd say if Crashlands 2 does the same player numbers as the original game, it'll be great. But it's looking like it's going to do quite a lot more than that. Yeah. And each player is probably going to put in quite a bit more time into the game. Yeah. And we don't even yet have things like different difficulty modes or game modes and stuff like that, which we've got kind of the foundations laid for that. Yeah, but like when we did our play test, it was literally just one version of the game, one size fits all kind of thing. So lots of stuff coming up. So this upcoming year, then it's time to like bring it home, right? Like we've got everything kind of set up, and now we've just got to pack it full of content and get it out the door.
The rest of the owl, as we say.
Got to draw the rest of the owl, which is really what it kind of feels like.
It really is.
Other studio stuff that's happened this year is we added Carl full time. So he had been a part-time QA tester for quite a while. And as things have been ramping up with Crashlands 2, there was just a nice like coincidence where he wanted more hours and we wanted more testing. So we just went for it, and it's been fantastic. He's incredibly enthusiastic about just all of it. So it's, which is, it's true of everybody, but, people have different like energy outputs, like if I'm very hyped about something. It
says like, I'm hyped.
I'm hyped. I'm hyped. But Carl is noticeably hyped, which is a pretty good energy, to kind of come into Discord and stuff. So we're happy about that. We also brought in an additional artist, Anne, who has already started adding a bunch of stuff to Crashlands 2. And
she's only been on board for a week, but
she's already gotten like a dozen assets or something into the game.
Clearly sharp and good at what she does. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm very impressed with, she's been able to just slot right into the art pipeline, pick up all the tools. One of the big challenges of finding artists is the technical side of things, because a lot of artists don't like to dig into the technical aspects of the tools. They just want to think about the art itself. Mm-hmm. And game art just isn't like that. Like you gotta, we always talk about like integration is the hardest part of everything. Mm-hmm. And so just because you can make good art doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy to slot you into a game dev team, because you need to be able to get that art into the game, right? And she just nails it, just doing so great.
Well, it's like so many things, right? It's like being able to do really good art, and like especially that matches the style and stuff. Like that's just the baseline requirement, right? It's kind of like making a game. Like you got to make a good game before you can sell it. But the hardest part is actually the selling of the good game that you made, right? Yeah, it's the same kind of a deal.
Yeah, and both things are hard, but one is definitely a prerequisite. So that's working super well.
Necessary but insufficient sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's starting to hit a point where like the studio is growing, but in a very controlled way. Like we're only bringing people in if we feel like we really, really, really need a person. And before we bring a person in, we try to make sure that everything is set up so that when they come in, everything that they're doing is clear and they can just slot right in, and they don't have to be like bugging people.
I would say, the difference between like this time bringing on people and just, ages ago, like the first time, is just that we're not so blind to what is actually happening in the studio. Like we can tell what we need, if that makes sense. Not, and it's not what we think we need.
And we're trying to do the economist approach. Like when economists talk about supply and demand, and like all else equal, blah, 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 right? We're actually trying to keep all else equal as much as we can, in the sense that if you add like a dozen people onto a team, then everything is different now, right? But if you add one person and then let things settle, let it absorb, try to keep as many things the same as you can and not have it be a huge disruptive event, and then get the next person, And it's kind of like if you have a company of like 80,000 people, that's probably the equivalent of like hiring 100 people. Right? It's like that's
even 10,000.
Yeah,
like that's and like that's going to be super disruptive if those people are concentrated in like one division. But if they're kind of like evenly spread out across the company, then they can slot into the processes and culture that's there.
Yeah, if you've got good, because like the core,
if you actually have processes.
That was our first time around. That was the core mistake, was that we were still trying to solve fundamental work problems, like work management and process problems and stuff, by adding throughput in the form of people. Which is now the thing that we actively avoid doing, to the point where it's like we really definitely actually need somebody by the time we actually are willing to do it.
It's kind of the business version of like having a kid to save your marriage, where it's like, if we just add one more person into this dysfunctional situation, it'll work itself out. It's like, no, that's just going to amplify all the problems that you already have while you're now trying to figure out what to do.
That's another KPI problem, right? Because what that actually really means in that case, like that specific example of, have a kid to save your marriage, means have a kid to prevent divorce, which is not equal.
It's not saving your marriage, relationship,
right? Yeah, because now you made it harder to do that, but that doesn't just make your relationship better.
Yeah, right? but it's kind of like what we kind of learned over the years is like most problems that you have are self-inflicted. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like from the business perspective, they're self-inflicted problems, and also like you have a certain set of constraints. And if you add somebody into your systems with the hope that they will just take over and solve that problem,
Yes.
that's not necessarily a good approach because you don't, like you haven't figured out what the solution's going to be. But like what you want to do is you want to get things into a good spot.
There are people who can do that, right? But those like that kind of because in order for that to work, that person has to come in. They have to be a really big picture thinker and also be able to do the specific job you brought them in to do, which is already unlikely.
And even and to do that, they need a big context. Like they need to be there for a while. And so like that's so we've kind of like over the past few years, we've kind of shifted gears into how we think about these things, which is get everything into a really good spot so that everything is working super well as is. Mm-hmm. And then what you're adding people for is not to solve problems, but to expand capability. Mm-hmm. Right. Like that's the reason that you're adding people. And it's been working very well. I'm very, very pleased with it. And speaking of bringing children into the world, that happened
Plus
twice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sam had Mava in February. Mm-hmm. February.
The
very end.
February.
And sure, just had a baby as well. About couple October, right? A couple of months ago. So we got 2 new babies and 2 new dads.
Yeah, go hand in hand. Pretty dope.
Yeah, very exciting. It's been cool to see kind of like Sam applying his DevOps knowledge and stuff into making this child rearing thing a much more pleasant experience.
It's been pretty cool. This baby. It's great. It's
been useful, right?
Oh, totally. Well, it's always all this stuff about, making the work visible and just like reducing need for communication about stuff to people. My wife and I set up like a shared Google Keep note with baby nap times and feeding and stuff because I just realized I was asking her all the time, like, when's the baby's next nap time? Because she's the one who's mainly tuned in with what that's going on while I'm working, as opposed to having to ask her. Then I could just look at the fucking note myself.
Yeah, because you don't want to do that thing where like one partner like bears all of the cognitive load, right, and then the other person just has to keep like bothering them. Right?
Exactly.
So again, it's like
you can see these things happening a little bit sooner than maybe before things actually get bad, right? Before someone's annoyed at you, you kind of okay, let me just
it's like these are the same exact kind of problems we're always trying to solve in the studio, which is like try to turn information into a pull system where like it is available, and if anybody wants to know anything, they can get it from that central location instead of having to go ask a person about it, right? And those kinds of things.
And to be clear, that doesn't mean I don't ask. It just means that I ask less than I did. You know what I mean? Like,
it's difficult to just universally solve these problems, right? So that's been very cool to see. And then now that so Sam was a dad for like 8 months or whatever before Sure became a dad, and so they've been able to kind of compare notes and kind of talk about this. So that's been pretty cool too.
Sure, we're really happy to be able to do like 2 months of full-time leave for Sure as well, which is great. So it's always nice to be able to offer that stuff because we're a tiny team. And again, this is the whole point. The whole point of the DevOps shit is to be like, what if someone needs to leave for a bit because they have, I don't know, summoned a whole new person? Can they?
Can we do that?
Can we do that?
Well, but also,
Sure's domain in the studio is to make sure that all of our builds go out. And like, what are the stats come if we share it or not? Is that we've made on average a build per workday, right? That has to go through the build pipeline, get delivered to QA, get tested, and so on, right? And so Sure manages, maintains, and adds features to that whole system, right? Which means there's a 8-week period where we needed that system to still work every single day, right? And it basically did. There were a few little hiccups here and there, but like
I think maybe twice the game pipe got clogged up and died or something. But he was able to basically like pop in, hit 2 buttons, and be done, and then go back to hanging out with his baby.
And that's kind of the model that we try to get. Is like leading into that, we're just like our goal is to have it so that like we don't have to touch.
We don't want to see you.
We don't want to like Sure's just gone. That was the goal, right? But we all knew that as a tiny team, it's harder to do that because there's just less humans. There's no redundancy basically, right, across the team. And so for the months leading up to him going, we were just like, do everything that you can. Like that's all of your priority is like making it so that the stuff that you manage that we need to keep working is completely documented and just working as error-free as possible. Because if we can get into that case, then nobody has to bother anybody and it'll be perfect. And then it basically worked. So kudos to Sherman.
Hell yeah.
For making sure he could get himself into that position.
We're also very happy to have him back, though, of course, because he's doing a bunch of cool shit already. But
there were things piled up where we're like, I guess when Sherman's back, we'll do it.
Well, yeah. There's if you are an important member of a team, which sure is, then of course, like if you're gone for 2 months, certain things will decay over that time, and you will have to come back and kind of prop things up and fix some things.
Even if it's survivable and manageable for us, the team, it definitely is.
Yeah, but the fact that you could do that and not come back to having to work 80 hours a week to compensate, and just like come right back in and just get back to normal. And
because basically within the third month, the idea was that 2 months fully off, or to the best we could, which ended up being pretty good, and then the final month of like halftime to try to like
it's basically a ramp,
ease back in.
Yeah, ease back in. To try and that with the first part of that just focused on just raising your head up and being like, what year is it? Trying to figure out where are all the threads that got left off? What are all the to-dos that piled up? Because of course we've all been throwing stuff into his inbox in the interim, right? So triaging that, like, it's basically focusing on like getting ready to go again rather than being like, I guess
you're just figuring it out from a process standpoint.
Yeah,
I mean, like at home with the baby now, it's like
exactly. Because still trying to provide a little bit of extra flexibility there to deal with it.
Yeah. So big thanks to Sure for putting in that work to make that a smooth thing, and of course, congratulations on the new baby.
Yep.
So speaking of pumping stuff through the game pipe and all that, what all did we do in Crashlands?
Here's some numbers.
What didn't we do in Crashlands 2?
So we had an average of 10.7 commits per workday.
That's Git commits or
Git commits into the Crashlands 2 repo.
So that's basically changes to code that we were like, this changes in a sufficient place that we need to make sure it is now safe forever.
Changes to code or additional art assets
or
adding assets or sound assets. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So total of 2,788 commits this year up to now. I mean, we've got a few more work days left, so there will be probably another 2,000, but up until now, 2,788. And let's see, as far as commits to Stitch, which is our VS Code extension,
plus all it's a monorepo, so it's basically anything Stitch related is all in there. So it's the extension plus a bunch of automation tools and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So this is kind of like Adam's tools palace, so that had 1,314 commits this year. So about an average of 5 per workday. So pumping out something.
Yeah. Something's happening.
Something's happening. Now, not all the changes to the game happen through Git commits. They also happen through the Game Changer.
Yeah, which we talked about a lot over this past year for a long time listeners.
Which is our new content management system that we spent a long time building, and it's what's going to allow us to draw the rest of the fucking owl, as they say, this upcoming year. So this year we had 1,800 Game Changer commits. We are currently at commit number 2,717. So about 2/3 of all of the Game Changer commits happened this year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
it'll probably, like last year, bet is the first quarter of this year will be like
it'll probably be that same amount.
Yeah. It basically means the game is 3 times bigger, more or less. Or like there's 3 times the stuff
as there was last year, and it's going to be about another 3 times this year, I think. So that pretty much tracks. And also bearing in mind that last year we were still wrapping up game systems. So like at the start of the year last year, we did not have pets, boss fights, farming, fishing, projectiles. Like the list goes on and on and on. We had pretty much just the basics, and we were still just working on the tooling to be able to do that stuff. And it wasn't really until about halfway through the year that we were really able to get into what we call our content push phase, where we're just pumping stuff out.
It was like August or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like
it was like the middle of third quarter. Yeah. And of course, like we were adding content to the game up until that point, but it was largely in service of answering questions about game systems and how to make scalable content, right? And so, like once we hit that in August, then it's like, okay, and then we basically just like finished the first zone, just like within a matter of a month and a half. So that's very cool. And we also had a point where like Sam, like the amount of art assets we needed was so high that Sam for a while just switched over to only doing art and not doing any other stuff, which also is part of what prompted us to bring Anne on board so that Sam could do more design work and we would have a consistent churn of art still coming through. Right. So that was very cool. And then the day before the closed alpha was when we had the highest number of game changer commits in one day, which was 35.
Really bring it down to the wire there, this team.
Yeah. And it's funny because, there would be like, we just had like a list of dozens of things that would be like nice to do before the alpha. And like, because the game changer exists, then, we could just go do those things. And so we just kind of burned down that list and
QA tested it and kicked it out the door. Boom, done.
Yeah. So on an average work day, we have about 7 game changer commits coming through the pipeline. So, but again, that is average over the course of this year. I would say the average over the past couple of months is probably 20.
It's a lot.
So it's really up there. As far as actual deployments of the game, which is like a full version that we wrap up and then send out to our QA team for testing. So we had 284 versions of the game this year, which is about 1 per workday or like a little bit more than that. And we had
another fun thing would be, I wonder how much build server time that was, right? Because every time we put out a new version, it goes through the build pipeline, right? And that means makes a build for Steam. It makes 2 builds for Android and iOS, one for Netflix, one that goes into our system, right? And I think
I would bet it's approaching 1,000 hours
because each Android build is like Android builds are really slow. And so each Android build takes like 40 minutes.
Yeah,
the PC build
that's just for the Android
build. Yeah, we got to make 2 of them every time, right? So
yeah, it's a lot. It's quite a lot of compute time that we've been putting through this. And then with those 284 versions, we had 1,220 patch notes. But again, it's heavily biased toward the end of the year because up until just like a month and a half ago, I think the game changer commits and world map edits were not even in our patch notes system. They are now, and our QA team is wishing they weren't because now the our QA team can see all of the changes that are going into our patch note system, and it's a lot. Yeah. They're a little underwater.
Not even all, because we actually flag ones that aren't really testable. We
exclude most of them actually, but but even that, it's
a fire hose at this point. We are really. I mean, I gotta say, with every single previous project we worked on, Levelhead included, the closer we got to the end of development, the harder it was to do anything.
Yeah,
anything.
This is
it felt like we were pushing a plunger, like against water.
Yeah, right.
So like it keeps getting harder and harder. God damn it! Yeah, but now it's like a hole in the end of it and it just squirts right out.
Oh my god!
Yeah, because I guess in the past, we've talked about it like the game starts in like a liquid state and then it sort of like solidifies. And like the more solid something is, the harder it is to mold it, right? And now it kind of feels more like the game started pretty solid and we just keep lubing it up.
Yeah,
and we can just slide it around, and we can send it anywhere and do anything. And it's just been kind of like semi-solid kind of throughout, where like we can shape any piece of it to be whatever we need. And of course, like some, there's always a cost benefit. Some new ideas, we've talked about ideas like, oh, what about like mounts? Can you ride an animal or something? And now don't get your hopes up because
probably not.
It's something we've talked about. And then when we kind of talk through like the why, the kind of implications, what mechanically, how does this work, and then what would it take to do it? Things like that. The cost benefit oftentimes comes out where it's like, well, that's probably a bit too big, too hard of a deviation from what we've got, unless we could find a way to,
But kind of the cool aspect of that, though, is the only reason we would even talk about something like that is because we have all the features that we knew we wanted and needed. Yeah, they're all in there, all of them. Yeah. Right? There's not a single system left that wasn't part of the plan originally, right? That we're like, this is part of what makes it.
Yeah, now it's just all about like refinement and expansion of those systems and really exploring them, But, we may hit a point partway through the year where we do want to add some new thing.
I want to give an example of this because after the play test, there are these fish that you could fish up that are weapons. Surprise.
Oh, yeah.
Like the original game. But they weren't super interesting like at the time of the play test. And so post play test, we took a look back at them and Seth was like, what if what if when you swung it, there was just a chance that it would fly out of your hand? It was just fly.
It's slippery.
Because
it's a fish.
Yeah, you're wielding a fish. And then, you could see it sailing through the air. Now there's a little mark on the ground somewhere. If you can get inside that, catch it, then you still got the fish. If you miss it, then you don't. You got to fish it up again wherever, get lucky. And it took like 20 fucking minutes to do that. And it was
all through the game changer.
Hilarious.
No code at all required to do that.
It's so fun. So now,
I think that's part of the idea is that, we can do so many interesting things we haven't even thought of yet because of how capable the tools are and how carefully designed everything is to enable for flexibility, right? That there are certain things that still become really hard, like having mounts was one of those things that's like
brand new.
None of the parts of that exist in the system.
And most of the challenges comes from the technical integration of art, right? It was like, how do you animate all of that and get flux onto a thing? And then
actually world map design, because it's like, okay, but does that mean people can just fucking zoom around? And
people can just ignore everything by just like blazing past it with no consequence, or
it's kind of like the discussion we had last time about multiplayer versus single player, right? Where it's like, if you design a game, you can't design a game that feels as good unmounted as mounted, right? That's not.
Yeah, you got to think about it.
You can't do it. Yeah, it's gotta. It's either just gonna feel really slow when you're not mounted once that's a thing, or just different parts of the game have to be designed. It's like, at this point we got mounts now for the rest of the game. So like,
which you can do,
designed around that, which you can do. Yeah.
There's those spaces sometimes in the game where they're like, go find, it's like in Zelda, where you find one of the sand seals you can go slap around wherever, go rain them on and start
kind of a mini game, right? Rather than sort of changing the whole game.
Well, yeah, but of course it's got to be there for a reason, in the sense that it needs to feel good to engage with the system, and it has to be fun. But the other kind of problem with things like that is so I'll use the new WoW expansion Dragonflight as an example. They added a whole new type of flying mount, which is a dragon riding mount,
which actually has mechanics and is fun to drive.
Yeah, it has like flight mechanics to it, but it goes at nearly 1,000% increased movement speed compared to your normal walking. And up until now, the fastest mounts in the game that were flying mounts would go at like 310% faster. And so now suddenly you're going incredibly fast.
You're booking.
Well, what does this mean?
Fun.
It's fun.
Yeah, so you want to go fast.
Yes. Well, what does this mean for world design? It means that this new expansion, it had I think it had 4 zones, but those 4 zones put together were the size of one of the original continents, which had like 18 zones. Because if people are moving that fast, you just need a giant space for them to travel through.
Which means
otherwise,
practically speaking, it means it's also going to be sparse, right?
Yeah. Things are further apart, so it's like it's a very different way of designing the game world, and you can't just like make the game and then just slap something like that into it. Like you got to design around that, right? So there's some things where, although technically feasible, would not be actually a good idea from a design perspective for us to do, because cool on paper, not fun in practice actually.
Or even if it is, it's too late in the game,
it's too late. Yeah.
But I think that's the cool thing. That was like, is we've just repeatedly had these things where somebody in the team was like, wait a second, I can like mix and mash the things that we've got together right already and do something really weird. It's just like this whole like fish flying out of your hand thing, right? Like it's a thing you have to. I think it's a testament to the quality and like design of the tools that they somehow managed to not be super constrained, right? So that they enable that kind of weird stuff. One of the fun examples of like using tools, incorrectly almost, right? From the original Crashlands was we're telling a story, certain part of the game where, and I can't remember even what the story is anymore, but I realized that I could have the character just swap places with a barrel, right? To give the impression that the character was in the barrel, right? There's things.
Suddenly like put a barrel on themselves, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that like, if you're thinking about this purely from if you had the idea of doing something like that and the tools couldn't support anything like that, now a new feature has to get made, right? Where it's like, now we have to get the concept of like a character going into a barrel or whatever, rather than just somebody realizing with the tools that they've got, they can do something new, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of what I'm really particularly excited about with where we ended up with all the tooling around all of this is where with sufficient creativity of like with the existing toolkit, you could do really surprising stuff. And it's been fun to see the surprising stuff that people have come up with. And we're just going to have a lot more of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so my job, kind of coming go for this year, a lot of it's going to be like just general polish and optimization and bug fixing and stuff like that. So that like all that huge volume of content that's coming through the pipe works very well and is very smooth, and we get good frame rates and, all of that stuff. Because of course, like this is kind of something we're now seeing with like Baldur's Gate just came out on Xbox, and they're having a bad time, real bad time. For starters, optimizing a game like that for console is very hard. It's very challenging. There's a lot of stuff in that game. And so performance, it leaves something to be desired. And that was also true when they brought it to PlayStation. But on top of that, they've got a bug that's causing people's saves to just disappear.
No. Ugh.
Yeah. And apparently it has some weird thing to do with like Xbox's cloud system.
Yeah, of course.
It demands height that you upload files, but their save files were slightly too big. So the Xbox firmware would say, oh, yeah, this is too big to upload in real time. We're just going to hold on to that until the game closes. And then if your Xbox turned off or anything while you're playing, then it would just purge the entire cache and you'd lose everything.
Yeah, because Xbox is weird. Because on Xbox, I remember dealing with this when we put original Crashlands at Xbox, and had to
everything's got to be looped into their cloud service.
Yeah, but usually the way this was like on the way that works on Steam, and actually, honestly, everywhere else, the way that it works is that you just write files the way you normally do, right? And then you sync a directory or specific files or something as a fully separate process to do the cloud save thing, right? But on Xbox, you're in effect writing to a database, right? Like that's practically how you treat it. So that basically like you saving something is like, you actually don't have any control over like, does that mean it's going into the cloud? Does that mean it's going onto disk? Right. Like, what does that mean? That's just completely abstracted away, and it's not a separate process. And so when we're designing our save systems and stuff, we're just like, well, we just
got to trust.
That's an Xbox thing, I guess. Yeah. We just write it and assume that it's going to still be there for the player afterwards.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, how things behave when you're on a dev kit may not always exactly line up with how they behave when it's a player's Xbox, right? And so there's all kinds of like traps and stuff that can happen. And so, and so like coming into this next year, that's a big part of my job, right? Is to make sure that the game isn't ruined because of weird stuff like that we didn't see coming, or because of performance problems or whatever, because you can have all this content and all this great stuff, but if the game's crashing, if it runs poorly, whatever, then it just doesn't matter that you have all those things because people can't enjoy it, right? So, all right, now speaking of the new year, let's talk about it.
Let's go.
All right, 2024. It's a big year. So what's coming this year? The launch of Crashlands 2. That's the plan, and that's the only plan.
Yep.
We don't have any other major things planned for this year other than we're just going to try to get this game out the door.
This isn't quite the same as like our usual plan where it's like, that sounds about like what's going to happen. It's like we're technically contractually obligated to get it out the door this year because of our agreement with Netflix. So like it is possible that doesn't happen.
It's possible to renegotiate that, but we really, really don't want to, and neither do they. Yeah. So things would have to go really sideways for that.
So really, it's coming out this year. Is basically the short of it, right?
Yep. Now when exactly, you'll find out.
Yep.
And so will we.
Not early. One thing we can safely say is not early. It will not be.
Yeah.
It will not be in the next few months.
Yeah, and like we've been talking about throughout this past year and this episode and stuff, like the whole point of everything we've done so far is to make it so that we can just blast forward and just get this game.
We are well positioned to do so. To deliver.
Yeah. So I'm very optimistic. I think we're on track. So let's talk about slogans.
Most important.
Every year we've got a slogan. It's us setting the stage for what kind of a year we want to have.
Sort of a statement of intent.
It's a mantra. I started doing yoga this past week and a half. And one of the things they do at the end of the yoga session is they're like, take some breaths and then set your intentions for the day. Just think about what kind of day you want to have. And usually I'm thinking a good one.
Simple as it gets.
Yeah, keep it simple. So we're doing that for the year, which is just we're going to set our intent for the year and try to frame out the year so that we got a good scaffold on which to build. So we took a bunch of suggestions from the community as well as from inside the house, and we're going to go through some of the ideas for 2024's slogan. You guys ready?
All Are we then gonna let it breathe until the next episode so that people can chat about it and have opinions? Is that?
I think we'll just see, because sometimes it's like,
Sometimes it's obvious. That's true.
Sometimes when
we'll just see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's one that's really jumping out, we'll just snatch it. And if we're on the fence, we'll put out like a choice between a few of them or something.
Yeah. And things can always change too, even if we like what we pick, but somebody comes up with a real banger, in the interim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but also like this is, just because you listen to this podcast doesn't mean you have to go with our slogan for your year. It's your year, like
it's just
whatever works. Whatever works for you.
Let's go.
So let's go down the list. All right. So first one comes from Carl. Suggestion is 2020 more, which is just like whatever you did.
Give me some more of that.
Do more of that.
That does fit given everything we talked about as far as all the game.
It does
stuff. Yeah. We're going to have a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, on the flip side, if you didn't have a great year this past year, maybe you don't want more of that.
Exactly. This is more as a kind of a monkey's paw, Yeah. Because it's like which part.
Mm-hmm. Unless you want more of less of it, then that.
Yeah.
That's true. Can you be inclusive
which kind of space? Which comes to our next option, which is 2020 bore. Hopefully nothing happens. That's just
honestly that'd be great.
There's that old curse, may you live in interesting times. Well, we live in interesting times.
Hopefully
we've
not.
all had enough.
Yep.
Yeah. Things got way too interesting. Can they stop?
Too interesting. Yep.
Can they stop being interesting? Mm-hmm. I kind of do want more interesting things to happen, but in a more positive way.
Yeah, I want different, good, interesting things to happen.
Yeah, I think it's one of it's sort of we do want more in certain aspects, and we definitely want more in other aspects, and you don't want to switch those aspects, and you got no control.
The problem is those are the wrong way around right now,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, next option comes from Illegally Sam. And we have several, because Illegally Sam swan dove into the Discord thread when we were asking for suggestions and dropped some bangers. Okay, so here we go. First one from Illegally Sam is 2020 score. Get good.
Yeah.
I think we appended the get good, but it's basically hey,
you did it.
Mac. Yeah. Now the risk of this, of course, is we've talked about the KPI problem, which is if you're trying to boil down stuff into a score, you might end up making things worse.
Might miss
That's sort of the reason why, the only reason our Git commits are interesting to us is because we don't care about them. Yeah. We don't look at them ever until the very end of the year, and
they still don't mean anything.
They don't mean anything. Yeah.
Well, because if we try to use this as a metric to be like, how productive was somebody? Well, because that's a bad metric, because I know, at least for my case, there's a large fraction of my commits are automatic ones that happen as part of the versioning process, right?
You could probably make even more if you needed to.
It would be, and also it's very easy just to make commits for no reason, So, and it's gonna be with like lines of code, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's fun because it gives you a sense of something, which is basically just it's kind of like that kind of activity in the vaguest of senses, right?
It's a pulse check.
There was a lot of activity going on. That's true. Whether it was machines doing it, people doing it, whether it was something worth doing, right? It was still stuff was happening. It's just kind of fun.
So we do want to score. That's good, right?
But yeah, but the stuff that matters, you can't. Yeah, the stuff that matters, you can't measure. It's too intangible. So I saw a presentation by a comp sci professor who was like, programmers aren't going to exist in 5 years because right now you have to pay a software engineer $1,200 to get an average of 100 lines of code, but you could get 100 lines of code from ChatGPT for 12 cents. I was like, programmers aren't line of code factories though. Like there's a couple more things going on in that process.
A lot more.
Which, maybe he's right in the sense that maybe in 5 years AI will replace programmers, but it won't be because of that. It won't be just because they can put out lines of code.
More likely that your programmer is going to be outputting 1,000 lines of code because of ChatGPT.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. My assumption is that we're entering into the age of the Jevons paradox, where programmers are now able to produce thousands and thousands of lines of code a day, and they'll need AI just to help them read the damn thing, So we'll see, All right. Next one from Illegally Sam. 2020 doors. It's the year of opportunity. Open up those doors, find some new paths. Now, as game developers, we're all too familiar with the door problem, which is once you have a door, you've got a lot of questions to answer.
More doors, more problems.
That's
more doors, more problems.
There's also more door involved here,
More door.
More door.
Yeah.
And
so although I like the idea of a door representing new opportunities, as a game developer, to me, doors only represent pain.
Man, this one, I started off real happy with this one, and now I'm a little less,
Doors are a real problem.
Yeah, I mean, how big are these doors? What can we bring through them? Do they lock behind us?
And are they those? And are they those fucked up doors that have a handle that you obviously pull, and then they have a sign on it that says push?
Yeah.
What the fuck is that? Okay,
is this door that you open it?
Somebody had to put a handle on that door on purpose.
Somebody chose that.
Somebody decided
just
to
make
ruin your day.
Angry. Yes.
So I got a lot of issue with doors.
Understandable.
So maybe, all right. So next one from Illegally Sam. 2020 pour. Crashlands 2 will make it rain.
Oh, I thought that was the other pour.
That's the problem with this.
Honestly, it could go either way. Yeah. So maybe, that.
Yeah. Homonyms where like they are literally opposites of each other, then kind of make it a little
challenging.
Challenging.
So, yeah. It's hard to frame out your basis.
It also means every time we say it. Yeah. But every time we say it in the podcast, we'll be like, it's 2020 pour. And anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about.
Liquid.
Yeah. To clarify it.
Yeah, that's a rough one. That's a rough one.
All right. So I'm going to put a strike through on that one. Sorry, Illegally Sam. That was definitely out.
It's a good rhyme, but it just doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
All right. Next one, final one from Illegally Sam. 2020 Thor. This year will be electric.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I like that. Although I feel like Disney will come after us.
Yeah.
The MCU has been on a bit of a downswing also. So, there's like kind of that going on.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, that might mean it might be more of like a cornered animal now. Like Disney's going to really start thrashing people. Mm-hmm. So you got to be careful. Be careful mentioning their copyrighted characters. Also, I feel like
Thor is just a Norse god or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Is that Norse? I think it's Norse, right?
Yeah.
That sounds
could be
some kind of an old pantheon god, right? So like the electric part, we might get us into trouble because now we're clearly talking about Disney's Thor.
I mean, they were the god of thunder.
That's true. So we're even still, we're not. No, yeah, thunder's just.
We're not talking about MCU at all. I don't know what I didn't say that.
Yeah.
But this is just
me neither.
Norse shit.
Nobody said that.
Yeah.
All right. Next option comes from Gabe. 20 Twinkle More, the musical. So this is really just kind of throwing some extra glitter and pizzazz into the year.
Yeah. I like it. Nice.
If you're not musically inclined, you can maybe just tap your foot this year a little bit.
Bob your shoulders.
Do a little chair dance. Try to hold the beat. Have you guys heard of that quietest room in the world?
Yeah,
where people go crazy in there.
Yeah,
because they can hear
their own human
they
bodies.
They can hear the blood pumping through their own veins. If there's no music around, you can just dance to your own beat of the blood moving through your body. This upcoming year.
But if you got an arrhythmia, that creates a challenge.
It does.
We just call that 6/8 time.
That's just swing.
That's a swing. You got a swing heartbeat.
Yeah.
Next option comes from Adam. So we got quite a few from all right. So the remaining ones are just from us, in some capacity. All right. So next option, 2020 lore, making history.
Yeah, I don't want to be history though. You know what I mean? I don't actually. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Well, we've already been
It's another monkey's paw situation.
I was gonna say, haven't we made enough history? Not
Can
us
we
specifically,
stop?
but can we have a year that's kind of just
that might as well have
nice.
not happened.
That's just
when
fine.
people say
back
this
to
year will
2020
be,
born again. It's just
It is.
Yeah.
yeah.
and people say this year will be one for the history books. Now I'm thinking, can it not though? Can it not be?
Every one of these for a while.
Can you imagine reading history, like a history book, and it's just like 2024? It's like kind of nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
We'll just
Wow, that must have been nice.
2025. Yeah.
Some bad shit.
Yeah,
wrapped up.
all the wars kind of stopped and everybody just kind of hung out.
Things
And
kinda died.
Stop being mean to each other, and
Man.
a new iPhone came out with a very slightly better camera, and that was kind of the big thing for this year.
That was it.
just
Everybody talked about that.
Yep.
Hopefully, but we'll see. All right, another option: 2020 snore. Time for a nap.
It's kind of the same. I agree with the sentiment, because goddamn, it is time for a nap. Collectively, we could all use a nap.
We could all use a nap.
It's got
After
to
we
take
finish
care
making
of
this
yourself vibe, just like After
I'm
once
gonna take
we
a
let
big
the game
nap.
out the door, definitely. I'm just gonna take like 3 weeks off, just nap the
I'm
whole
just
time.
gone. I'm just leaving the
Now,
country.
I'll say though, in my experience, there's actually two kinds of people in the world: nappers and non-nappers. I feel like if you're a napper, you already were napping. Like I know a lot of people who they've got their daily nap. It's planned. They know it. They're doing it every day. I can't take naps. I can't do it. I lay there for an hour and a half.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe 2020 snore. You gotta learn how to nap.
Yeah.
Learn to nap, noob.
Yeah.
2020
it's
snore.
It's a skill, like any other.
Yeah, that would be if our slogan is 2020 snore. For me, it would be learn to nap.
Yeah,
because I haven't been able to successfully do it so far. All right, next one. 20. Please no more. Can everyone just chill for a second? So again, with this vibe of,
it's kind of a lot.
It's just a lot.
We've all kind of had enough.
I like how this
all of it, really.
This thread, this just keeps emerging. Everybody would be like, it's so little.
The slogans are just, I'm tired. Hey guys, welcome to 2024. I'm fucking tired. That's the slogan. But
okay, it's gotta be positive.
Be done?
We gotta keep on the up.
Yeah. That one I like. That one I put in there because it was fun, but not because it's a real contender.
Yeah, thematically it was flowing. It just came out.
Yeah.
Definitely not positive enough.
I like this next one. 20 Pompadour. Find your drip or fit. I'm not sure if those are the terms. Are those terms correct?
We're
Maybe.
not young enough. I don't know.
Tell us, Gen Z. Just get them. Don't.
Get in the comments.
Yeah. Ideally, we continue misusing slang because, in my opinion, that's the best way to use slang.
The only real way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Slang starts as a misused word.
Right.
What was that?
So slang starts as it's like a misused word. It's like just
you just kind of.
So why not just carry the tradition forward? Misuse the slang.
Well, and remember, all language is descriptive, not prescriptive. It's just people start doing things, and at some point, someone's like, "Ooh, I should put this in the dictionary," so like people know how people use it. But that's the actual process. It's not. There's not rules.
Yeah. That's true. The dictionary doesn't tell you how words are supposed to be used. It just tells you how they have been used, at least in some context.
You gotta set your mind free. Make up words. Drip and riz all over the place.
Something about that feels wrong.
Feels bad.
It's not right at all.
Can't put my finger on it. Probably because it's so slippery.
Yep.
20 Pompadour.
Your finger just yeets right off of it.
Just yeets right off.
Yep.
Oh fuck!
We're gonna die.
I heard the term recently of safety yeet, which is where you just like something is dangerous and you just chuck it as far as you can.
Safety yeet.
Safety yeet.
Yeah, it's too hard.
It's hard to say.
I have a question.
It gets stuck in your mouth.
Do you think the name Chuck came first, or
the act of chucking?
The act, like it was Chuck, because Chuck probably was a slang at some point for throwing.
Chuck, because Chuck is short for Charles, right? Is that how?
I think so. Yeah.
There was a point in time where people decided that the short version of a name didn't have to have anything to do with the long
just
version.
fucking random.
Like Bill, Dick, Chuck,
yeah, all sorts of different
William,
names involved.
Richard, Charles.
Just
how the fuck
mappings.
Did we get there?
Yeah.
All right, next one. 2020 core. Get to the center of it. That's
is this a celebration of the 2000 whatever movie, The Core?
The Core, yeah, of course.
With the most amusing physics of basically all sci-fi movies.
Yeah, where they had to nuke the core of the Earth to get it to start spinning again. Yeah, because as we all know, hey, something stopped spinning, nuke it.
Also bad.
Hit it with a nuke.
Yeah, I do need to get back to the gym, so this is also kind of a nice gym slogan.
Yeah.
It's a little boring.
Core strength is important.
Yeah. It's the core of the strengths that...
It's too, a little too obvious, like, do the core things.
Yeah.
Duh. That doesn't give me anything new.
2020 core. True. Just keep planking.
Just plank, baby. Just plank away.
Plank.
Yeah, but that's pretty close to 2020 bore.
It's true, because it's also for like,
but we also have 22x4. Okay.
Which you could plank with. That's good. Now
this one's tricky because a 2x4, technically on paper, it looks like you're multiplying 2x4, therefore it would be 2008. But hear me out. All right, 22x4. Be a stud. Nail it.
That's what we're trying to do this year. Do some planks.
2x4s also great for load bearing, And so like
in the case of zombie apocalypse,
good weapon.
Put some nails in that bad boy. You're good to go.
22x4. Be versatile. Be load bearing. Be a stud. Nail it. 2x4. It's a very good piece of wood.
Honestly,
go to wood piece.
Don't hate it. It definitely takes some explaining.
It doesn't. Yeah,
But
we
that's
can
kind of
explain it
good
again
also.
every time we use it, I feel like.
22x4.
Yeah.
Nail it.
I mean, 22x4 nail it is. That feels. That feels good. That feels good.
All right.
That could
20
also
trap
work for
door.
2020 Thor, because he's got that hammer. So.
Yeah, but he never hits nails with it because he would just obliterate the nail into a neutron star.
Yeah, that's true. He doesn't have the skill of just like the gentle.
I believe Thor's hammer is made from like the core of a dying star or something.
It's a
So
little
it's like 1 trillion pounds.
Yeah.
So if you hit a nail with that,
The building.
that's got to be a
opposite,
crazy
yeah.
nail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. His hammer's not a construction hammer. It's more of just a weapon, I think.
It's a showpiece.
All right. Next option is 20 trap door. Keep your head on a swivel. There's traps.
There are traps.
Maybe roll a perception check. Maybe do a dexterity
Saving throw.
saving
Who
throw.
knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
That one is, that's more of a cautionary kind of a one.
Yeah, I think we're all full of caution at this point, frankly. You know what I mean? I'm full up. I'm filled to the brim with
That's fair.
caution.
We don't need any more cautionary cautions.
No.
All right, this next one is probably metaphorical. 20 pterosaur. Fly high and stab things with your face.
Yeah, I think metaphorically it feels pretty good.
Metaphorically. Somehow that probably means something to someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 pterosaur have a disproportionately sized head. I think that's pretty.
Oh, I like this. 20 pterosaur. Even though you're old, you can still get up there and do stuff, Like
That's right.
When are pterosaurs old? I guess.
well, they're like millions of years old, They're fossils.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
Technically, they can't get up there and do stuff.
technically they can't fly anymore because they're dead.
Yeah, 20 pterosaur. Look
falling
good as a
apart.
fossil. Yeah,
good
age
as a fossil.
gracefully.
Oh.
Age gracefully.
Age gracefully.
Get hard.
I think that's it.
There you
It's got to be one of those,
Next one, 20 Labrador. Just happy to be here. Just
Honestly, that would be
Kinda-
great. That's kind of nice.
kind of just being like a dog.
It's just about vibing.
just vibing.
Just happy
even
to
if
be
you're not quite sure what's going on, that's okay. Just get in there and maybe make a friend.
kind of wag around.
Try
Just
to
have a
be
good time.
positive even when it makes no sense, But
Fetch stuff. Fetch stuff that has been yeeted.
Every time you eat a meal, act like it's the craziest shit you've ever seen in your life.
Do a little tap.
Even if
Eat
it's
it
the
as
same
fast
thing you
as
had
possible.
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, go outside, touch grass, roll in some stuff,
yeah.
I feel like dogs, they do have some things figured out.
I do. It's a
you know?
simple time.
So
yeah.
20 Labrador, just happy to be here. All right, next one, 20 underscore. Emphasize what matters. So I think it's kind of like 20 core.
So too.
It's kind of like try to find the salient thing and focus on that, but that's
too
kind of
ominous.
always the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it could be
All right,
because underscores also like underlines for hyperlinks, right? So it's like
Format your
20
shit.
underscore cite your sources.
It's also
That's a good idea.
you know,
That's
if you're like
important.
correcting papers or something, you also underscore shit where you're like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
You may not
Yeah.
strike. You
And
can strike it
honestly,
3
like
times.
citing your sources and understanding where your information came from is increasingly important in today's information age.
It really is.
With all the AI and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a good one.
to be fair,
It's
though,
very specific.
I do think you'll also be citing sources less because of all of the AIs. You know what I mean? People are just going to be
Yeah.
flinging bullshit out there left and right.
It's going to be a lot like when we were, because I hear things about like younger kids asking their parents, like, what was it like to when you didn't know the answer to something, when you didn't have the internet? And there's the time was we just made up, most of the people made up an answer and then told you that was the truth. And you were like, oh, I guess that must be it. Right. Or you just didn't know and that was fine too.
You just
It was
kept
one of those
not
two.
knowing.
I think I think we're already back there now.
sort of reapproaching that. Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause
Where
you
it's just
can't
like,
know.
because you can't know because now the information is out there, but so is all other forms of a possible answer to the same question, all of which are wrong though. But there's no way
sounds
to
kinda right.
differentiate. Yeah.
So you got to squint.
We're just
real
right
hard.
back where we were.
2024, squint. Was
They
this?
say the more things change, the more they stay the same. How did you get information before ChatGPT? Well, we had this thing called Google. You had to type in very specific keywords and then scroll past 200 ads. It was crazy.
And
all
SEO
right, last
jacked
option.
websites, etc. Yeah.
Last option is 2020 soar. Leap into the future. Also, it's a leap year.
Oh, I also thought that was just because you're sore from all of what's happened.
From all
last
the
couple
leaping?
years.
And all the exercise.
SORE.
Yeah. Just
2020
kinda,
soar. Ow, my bones.
Ow, my whole body. Can I get a nap? I feel like there's a clump of them that are kind of, there's a word cloud here that's forming. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. So quick recap. So I think what we'll do is let's just let them sit.
Some simmer. Yeah.
We'll take. Well, I'm not even going to narrow them down. I'm just going to read back through them.
Okay.
We'll let the community put in their suggestions
which means it might still be a couple episodes until we have an answer, just because of how time works.
Hey, measure twice.
Because this one won't come out until the first week of January, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, measure twice, cut once. 22 by 4.
22 by 4. Measure twice.
That's all I'm saying.
22 by 4. Just cut. And if it didn't work, just get a new 2 by 4. You know, just keep cutting.
They're pretty expensive these days, though. So it's easier.
That's true, actually.
Yeah. Well, the price went back down after lumber went down recently.
Oh, is it back down?
It's back down. Mm-hmm.
So now it's back down just to like the everything is expensive levels rather than
I think
specifically as expensive levels.
What's worth more by weight, lumber or gold? Have we hit that point yet?
I think you can't grow gold out of the ground. So, you know what I mean?
Well, how else do you get it?
Yeah, but you need wood for way more things.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like wood would be a smarter, move. So,
we don't value things based on stuff that makes sense, though. There's just like, how much of there is it? Just like, it's like NFTs.
Not that much. Like, it's priceless.
There's one of this definitionally useless thing,
if you could make
we call those
shiny,
we call those collector's items.
Yeah, that's true. If you could grow shiny wood, I feel like you'd make a fucking killing.
We used to have all kinds of really cool wood, but then everybody chopped it all down and used it to make things. So
probably
damn it.
We're left with a lot cooler kinds of. They're actually some of them still might
Where's
be
the
around.
shiny
You're not
wood?
allowed to use them, because they're endangered. But like there's like the iron wood, and there's like that wood that's like
there's
black
a bunch of them,
and so hard you can't even like drill through it. I don't know if that still
And
exists.
somehow people still just did it.
Yeah,
even just some of the old wood that you had in some of these houses, they were just made of like pines and stuff. The tree was so old that it was so thick that you can't like put a fucking nail in it. It's like I don't think so, buddy.
I don't think so.
My house is old enough that those like foundational wood crossbar things in the basement that kind of hold the whole house up. They're huge. I don't know what they're made out of, but I'm pretty sure it's a wood that is illegal to use now.
Basically ironwood. Yeah.
It's basically I would have, when I was doing our inspection of our place before we got it, our inspector was just like, he's like kind of knocking on it. He's like, he's like talking about what it was, but his caution was, don't try to put anything into this. Like, don't try to nail anything. He's like, it'll be a futile effort. It's like,
it'll break all of your tools.
You'll break everything. Yeah,
that's kind of badass.
I know.
Very impressive.
But it doesn't exist anymore. So,
or at least,
rest in peace.
Yeah.
Wood.
Rip wood.
All right. So here's the list. Are we ready?
You ready?
All right. 2020 more. 2020 bore. 2020 score. 2020 doors. We got so we're cutting out 2020 pour. So that was not that was off the radar. 2020 Thor. 20 twinkle more. 2020 lore. 2020 snore. And 20 please no more. We'll probably cut that one out too.
that was not real. That's just an expression of frustration at what life is like in the 20s.
We got 20 pompadour, which was find your fit / drip.
Find
or
your
riz
drip fit
or whatever
thing.
20 pompadour, misuse slang. 2020 core, 22 by 4, 20 trapdoor, 20 pterosaur, 20 labrador, 20 underscore, and 2020 soar.
All right.
And it could be either soar, really. That was intended as SOAR. It's got the same problem as that other one.
If it's SORE, I feel like that can also be good because it means you've been working out. You've been exercising.
It can be good, but it can also be bad. So
it can also mean you're just in pain.
Yeah.
Regardless.
For no good reason at all.
That was more of a hard pass for me personally, but
All right, so hard pass on 2020 soar.
Cut that out of there.
All right, so as our listeners, if any of those leap out to you and you're like, I really want to, that's my year right there. Head on over to podcast.bscotch.net and give us your votes.
Or if you have what you think is better, still drop it in there too.
Yep.
Yeah. Now there probably won't be like a poll or anything on there. You just type the one in the box that you want to do.
This is still not a democracy. This is just
to be clear. No, of course not.
We just do whatever we want, and that's the whole thing.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this year in review and year in preview episode.
And year in rear view.
Yep.
Year in rear view. That's a rough one.
Year in rear view.
That's right.
We'd like to thank our producers, Fat Bard and Sampa Acosta, for putting the podcast together. And thanks to our community moderators who keep our Discord running. To get more involved in the Butterscotch community, you can just go to podcast.bscotch.net, where we have links to the community Discord, a way for you to donate, and links to the podcast archives. And as always, if you haven't yet, head on over to Steam, give Crashlands 2 a wish list, help it get past that 60,000 wish list mark. Ooh. And, that just helps boost it up in the store charts and the algorithms and all that stuff. So we'd appreciate that. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.